And we're live. Hello, YouTube. And if you're listening to this in podcast form, hello, podcast listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Primal Edge Health podcast. I've been talking about something called photobiomodulation. And in particular, this crazy thing right here. Whoa! Could it be any brighter? That is my favorite photobiomodulation red light therapy device. After, of course, the beautiful full spectrum device that we have outside called the sun. And I'm here with Scott, the developer of the JOOVV. What's up, Scott?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation.
It looks beautiful there. Where are you?
I'm in your old neck of the woods, my friend, in Southern California. We were based out of Minneapolis. We've been there for about 5 years or so, and I'm sure we might get into this a little bit, but my background's med tech, so that's what brought us to Minneapolis. But we just relocated to Southern California actually at the beginning of this year, and so you can see the back. I'm trying to take on a little bit more of your Ecuador flair. You know what I mean? So that's why we came outside for this show. Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's not cool enough there yet to go shirtless because it's March. But
that's right.
Yeah, man. Southern California is where I was born and raised until I was 18 years old. And then I went up north to, Midtowns, California, to Santa Cruz. But right on, man. So you're from Minneapolis. When you guys started JOOVV, were you over in Minneapolis?
We were. Yeah. My personal we started the company with my wife, myself, her sister, and then my brother-in-law, Justin, who's the engineer who actually, is the quote unquote developer of the device. And so we were all based in Minneapolis. My wife and I, we were brought there through my background in med tech. So I've spent my entire career in the traditional medical device arena with companies like Medtronic, Boston Scientific, primarily in the cardiovascular space. So to get even more granular, the peripheral vascular space, so peripheral vascular stents, atherectomy catheters, that kind of geeky stuff. And so that's my background. That's why we were in Minneapolis. But the weather in SoCal is significantly better, to say the least.
It's really nice. I grew up in Southern California, and everyone used to talk about how it's the ideal weather for humans. And I until I moved to Ecuador, I would have definitely agreed. California's got some of the best weather. But I got to say, man, the Andes, there's pockets of the Andes that have weather that is perfecter than California, if it is even possible. But I swear it does happen. There's some beautiful weather here in the Andes. So how did you discover red light therapy, and how did you kind of pivot from making stents and other medical devices into doing this crazy bright ass red light panel that people might think this would blind you? I mean, I've had people ask if you've got to wear goggles in front of you. You don't. You can stare right into it. It feels amazing. But how'd you get into this thing? Let's talk about the genesis of the JOOVV.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. It's probably not too dissimilar to most startups. That my wife and then her sister Melissa actually had purchased red light therapy packages at a local spa or a local salon actually in Minneapolis. And they're becoming that type of service is becoming a little bit more popular now. There's more shops. More boutique shops opening up. A lot of cryo shops are starting to offer photobiomodulation or light therapy.
Have you seen that Planet Fitness has a unit?
Yeah. Yep. I think I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I forgot the name of it off the top of my head. But
it's like a pod type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what frequencies they use. I couldn't find any specific information, but apparently they've got a device.
Yeah, they do. In fact, we a lot of people come to our site having tried light therapy at a Planet Fitness and want to use something in their own home. So, nice. We see that a lot. So anyway, they bought these packages at a local spa in Minneapolis. They went consistently about 5 times a week for about 2 months or so, 2.5 months. Saw really good results, namely with respect to their skin. So, my sister-in-law Melissa, she had quite a few eczema issues that were healed up over the course of that period of time. My wife had some brown kind of skin related spots on her skin, mainly hormonal related, just from having kids and whatnot. She saw a lot of relief from that. So they saw really good results, so they're impressed with the therapy. But it's pretty onerous to have to go to any sort of like location on a consistent basis, and that's one of the keys with light therapy or photobiomodulation. It's not something that you can use just once or once a week. You really need to use it consistently. But having to go someplace is pretty onerous from a time standpoint, but also from a budget perspective too. I mean, it gets pretty expensive. And so So anyway, Melissa tasked her husband, Justin, who's an engineer, she basically said, can you build me one of these, build me something similar that we can all use at home. I don't have to travel anywhere. I don't have to travel across town at the spa. Plus the rest of our family can use it, and we were not killing our budget. So anyway, that's Justin kind of got to town, built a few early prototypes. And as we started kind of digging into the science of photobiomodulation, we were quickly blown away by like how much clinical literature there's published.
It's almost ridiculous. Like if I start talking about the clinical literature and I literally feel like a snake oil salesman. I start talking about like, look, these are the things that it can do. And I'm not just saying this because, oh, we're gonna sell it. Like I feel it. I don't represent things. I don't rep or affiliate with any companies if I don't believe the product. Sure. And it is just amazing. Like you feel this. In the JOOVV, you mentioned that like, well, it takes time and you got to use it consistently. I felt it the first time I used it. Do other people get similar effects? Yeah.
No, I mean, that's definitely the case. I would say for most people that probably is not the case. But my wife, and maybe you're similar, are probably a little bit more in tune with your body, with her body than probably I am, as an example. So like with me, this is probably not something I noticed right away, but there's certainly a subset of people that do notice benefits like from day one. And so it is interesting in that regard. And, it's funny kind of going back to that story. We talked a little bit about my background, kind of traditional geeky sort of med tech stuff. I was very skeptical at first. I thought like, this is totally woo woo, like stand in front of a red light. That sounds kind of hokey. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are probably thinking the same thing. They've seen you use it enough, so maybe they're a little bit over that hump, but dude, I was like, this thing, I don't know about that. But like,
there's no way that this is going to do like all these things. How can a light improve mitochondrial function?
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And you see the laundry list of benefits, everything from skin health to muscle recovery to joint pain relief to cognitive function, all supported by published clinical literature. And it's like, well, there must be something to this. And so as we kind of went down the rabbit hole, there's some pretty interesting gaps sort of in the marketplace, so to speak. So one of the keys to light therapy, like we said, is consistency. So ideally you want to use it in your own environment, right? Ideally your own home, wherever that is. Another thing that we noticed is most devices are really underpowered. So if you're looking at clinical studies and looking at the dosage required to receive some sort of relevant benefit, usually the dosage is pretty high, especially for deeper tissue treatment. And so in order to get that same type of dosage from an underpowered device, you gotta use it forever. And we're talking hours per day, and no one's going to do that.
I've got another device that's much smaller, and it's, I've thought about recommending it to, clients and stuff, but I don't feel it. You know what I'm saying? It's like with this device, it's much smaller, and the LEDs they must be, they're tiny LEDs. And the guy who makes it's great. I know the device works if you use it long enough, but I've got to hold it like I got to be right up next to it. Which is with the JOOVV, you 6 inches away is the treatment zone. Yeah. And that thing, I've got to hold it for like an hour to get even a half of what I'll get from the JOOVV in 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, no, you nailed it. And that's one of the things that we saw is like, not to say that an underpowered device won't work. It will. You just have to use it for a really long time. And so it kind of goes back to like one of the keys with light therapy is consistency and compliance. And if you have to use something for a long period of time every day, or most days, most people, they're going to kind of drop it off. They're going to kind of fall off and sort of like, it's not going to become an easy to use sort of treatment. And so optimizing for the power output is pretty important. And then the other thing that we saw too is most devices are pretty small. You mentioned like another little panel. There's a lot of little handheld devices on the market you can pick up for, a relatively inexpensive price. But again, if you want the benefits of full body photobiomodulation, you're going to have to like use the panel on your face, then use it on your legs, etc. And you won't get that systemic benefit of a full body treatment. And so it was those three things that we saw, in the market, namely the treatment area and the power. And we were like, it's hard, like you can't find this anywhere. So like, I guess we'll try to build one. Justin went to town. And then, with my med tech background, I sort of put together the roadmap to commercialization. And so, we didn't have any intention of like building a business around this, but it was kind of one of those.
Didn't you just build it because your wife wanted it for her skin? You're like, I don't want to have to spend money for you to go to the damn salon every day. And I like to hang out with you, and you can treat yourself at home. And I mean,
we're laughing about it. We're laughing about it, man. But that's like not too far off from like the reality. Back in mid 2015, we were kind of like beginning to, do some early prototyping and research. But it was kind of like that. And it was like, well, there's some early interest, there's some early traction, and sure enough, in 2016, it kind of picked up steam, and then last year it really picked up steam. And so, fortunately, with guys like yourself, some other sort of quote unquote influencers in the health space, we've been able to find
try to do a Ben Greenfield impression here. Hey, it's Ben Greenfield. I just finished microdosing my children with LSD that I bought cryptocurrency. Now I'm putting my JOOVV on my balls. That was bad. That wasn't a good one.
It's not too bad.
I got the hey was right. The hey is the only one I can do. Hey, this is Ben Greenfield. I'll just end it there. So yeah, Ben Greenfield's done a great job of representing JOOVV, telling people to put it on their balls for testosterone production. And that's another one of the things that has been shown. It's like, I mean, we're looking at everything from improved thyroid function, improved testosterone production, decreased inflammation. Let's get into kind of how are specific frequencies of light able to give a myriad of beneficial health responses in the body that last for weeks? Like, how is this even working?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's and kind of like we mentioned earlier, when you see that laundry list of benefits, it's naturally to be pretty skeptical. But when you start to like dig in and peel back the layers of the onion and start to understand the mechanism of action, it starts to make a little bit more sense. And we'll kind of start maybe at a high level and then go a little bit deeper, into the science. But the analogy I like to use a lot is, light therapy or photobiomodulation is it's not terribly different than macronutrients and how we consume, proteins, carbs, and fats. Our bodies metabolize those different macronutrients in different ways and at different times of the day, right? Light is somewhat similar in that our bodies respond to, blue light in a very positive way in the mornings to rebalance our circadian rhythm, but excess blue light in the evenings is not ideal because it throws our circadian rhythm out of balance. Same things with, a wide variety of different wavelengths of light. And, we're talking about red and near infrared light, but our bodies metabolize these specific wavelengths of light, namely in a very narrow range called the optical window or the therapeutic window. That's often referred to in clinical literature. But in this very narrow range of wavelengths between about 600 and 900 nanometers, there actually are very specific wavelengths that enhance mitochondrial function at a cellular level. They actually help your mitochondria, so the powerhouses of your cells, produce more ATP or more adenosine triphosphate, or the kind of energy currents of light.
Just to interject here, mitochondria are also greatly improved through dietary intervention. So here we talk a lot about, burning fat for energy, using diet to reduce inflammation. And a lot of those same effects that you're getting from ketosis are from mitochondrial improvement. So this is totally links into what a lot of people that are watching this are already doing with diet. And it's almost like it takes it to the next level. Continue, Scott. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, it's a really good point. I mean, the mitochondria is incredibly important. It seems like more and more people there's more and more awareness, being driven towards like the importance of, enhanced or normal mitochondrial function. It's kind of interesting. It's like you remember back to like biology class in high school and talking about mitochondria, it's like these little things inside the cells and stuff happens there, but I don't really know. But then as you get older, you start to realize the importance of these, these powerhouses. But to get a little bit more granular, where red and near infrared light, specifically red light in kind of the mid 600 nanometer range, and then near infrared light, which is much different than far infrared. And we can get into that later. But near infrared light, actually, those two ranges activate an enzyme during cellular respiration. That enzyme is called cytochrome C oxidase. So what happens when our cells are under stress? Say like we ate a huge glutinous meal, dosed up on way too many carbs, and our cells are under stress, right? That's the reality. Or if we are stressed because of some other
lack of sleep, like you don't get enough sleep, working a night shift, staring at the dang computer, editing videos all the time, like I got
exactly. I mean, there's all kinds of different stressors, but when our cells produce excess nitric oxide, like too much nitric oxide, that actually has a tendency to bind to that enzyme that I mentioned earlier called cytochrome C oxidase, or CCO. So nitric oxide binds to cytochrome deoxidase, which actually prevents the production of ATP synthase, which is a precursor to ATP. And so when that happens, like your mitochondria just don't you don't produce they don't function normally in terms of the production of ATP. And so that's where red and near infrared light kind of have that's where the magic sauce comes from, is that with those specific wavelengths at the right, in the right form of power, they actually break that bond between nitric oxide and cytochrome deoxidase. So that bond is broken. Nitric oxide is released. That's why some people report a lot of vasodilation or kind of a pump when using red and
I feel like relaxing in my face. Like if I'm staring at the computer, you know how your eyes get all tight, like this like it gets constricted. When I look into the JOOVV, and a lot of people have asked me, can you stare right into it? It looks so bright. Yeah, I do it all the time. I think it's fine because it feels amazing. But what I feel when I stare into it is I'll feel it vasodilating and releasing and loosening up all these little micro tissues. And like, it feels like it does the opposite that staring at blue light does. Like it just reverses that process somehow.
Yeah. Actually, did you do a video a little while ago, like maybe a couple weeks ago you actually showed sort of the the stress around your eyes.
I woke up, I took a hot shower, and I was inflamed. My eyes were looked like stoned. My eyes were all red, and I got in front of the JOOVV, and in about 10 minutes they were completely clear, and I was ready to go, and my nose was more clear. It was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's an N of one, but for anyone that sort of even questions that, there is published literature that shows these specific wavelengths of light actually do enhance retinal function. In fact, Dr. Michael Hamlin, who's on our scientific advisory board, he's a PhD that runs his own photomedicine lab at Harvard. He actually has a really nice meta-analysis on enhanced retinal function with photobiomodulation. So like it's no joke. I mean, it's definitely been proven out. But kind of going back to the mechanism of action, when these specific wavelengths of light break that bond between nitric oxide and cytochrome deoxidase, nitric oxide is released. That's why you do get some circulatory benefits, that vasodilation. But then cytochrome deoxidase at the same time is released to do its function in terms of producing ATP synthase, or helping to produce ATP synthase through the electron transport chain. And so there's this nice
without the input of food, right? It's like you're allowing somebody to create energy without having to burn carbohydrates, without even needing more fat. Yeah. So would that possibly have a function for reducing hunger, like theoretically?
Yeah. In fact, there's actually some really interesting. We're still early, kind of in understanding how these wavelengths of light actually do help to reduce weight loss. That's kind of an ambiguous term, but actually help reduce the circumference or the girth of someone's waist, for example. There's a lot of really nice research kind of dating back to the late 2008, 2009, and then into the early this decade, but showing that these wavelengths of light actually do help with that. It's a little bit unclear in terms of the mechanism of action, other than sort of like creating these micropores where you're actually releasing toxins out of the adipose tissues. They're basically shrinking. That's one theory. Another theory is that you're upregulating your metabolic system, actually helping your body produce more ATP, helping it function more normally, so you can actually burn more cleaner energy, so to speak, in kind of layman's terms. So yeah, there's the mechanism of action. There's a little bit unknown at this point, but there's definitely some early evidence that points that your metabolism is upregulated through these wavelengths of light.
Fantastic. All right, so these specific wavelengths of light, I've had some friends who've recommended. They've said, dude, why are you using this device? Why don't you just buy these like red bulbs that are supposedly like full spectrum red bulbs? I've had like reptile lights in the past, and I didn't feel shit from them. Like you didn't get any real results from those types of things. Why are we not getting the same effects from these full spectrum bulbs, which on paper it would seem like, okay, you're getting a broader spectrum and it's not an isolated frequency. Perhaps this will be mimicking natural processes that we would be getting from the sun if you get a full spectrum light. Why does it seem like all the literature and even anecdotal reports of these specific frequencies seem to be better than these full spectrum lights that people use sometimes?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and so and naturally, like you can go to your local Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. Maybe not so much in Ecuador, but but at least here in the States, and pick up these little infrared heat lamps, these red infrared heat lamps that they're 250 watts, so they seem like they're even high power, and they get really hot.
That's almost as like what's the JOOVV original 300 watt?
Yeah, 300 watts. Yeah.
Wow. So one of those lights, this thing is very powerful for how little electricity it uses.
Yeah, exactly. So that there's kind of some a lot of like naturally so a lot of misconception about like wattage and then like the power delivered through a light therapy device, and that's why wattage is not necessarily the biggest indicator of like the actual dosage you're getting from the device. And so what you really want to look for is something called irradiance, or photon flux is sometimes what it's called, but irradiance is like one of the big metrics to look for in a light therapy device, because that allows you to actually calculate the dose of energy delivered to your body in the form of joules. So when you're looking at all these clinical studies, the ones that support muscle recovery and joint health and metabolic activity and
decreased inflammation,
yeah, exactly. Across the board in almost every study, there's two things that are very clear. One is what wavelengths were used in the study, and then two, what was the energy dosage to the participants. And so when you look at these studies, the energy dosage becomes very clear, which in order to figure out the energy dosage, you need to understand the irradiance. And so that's why, like, as a company, we've like from the very get-go, we wanted to be very, very transparent about the wavelengths that are delivered from our device, because you really need to make sure that they're the clinically proven wavelengths in a very narrow band. And then also the irradiance, which allows you to calculate the dosage and how, like, basically answer the question, how long do I need to use this to receive the benefits? And so if you don't have those two things, like the wavelengths and the irradiance, it's really hard to kind of figure out, like, if I'm trying to treat joint inflammation, how long do I need to use it? Do I need to use it a little bit longer? Do I need to use it, a little bit less time, et cetera? And so those two things are really important when you're kind of, shopping for a light therapy device. And so even if you don't pick up one from us, that's totally cool. Just make sure you're looking out for those two things, wavelengths.
So on these full spectrum lights, it seems like if you were to look at the irradiance, what would be the difference, like with these, these lamps that you can buy on like eBay or on the Amazon for these so-called full spectrum red lamps? What would be the difference? Like, why aren't they able to give me the same feeling that I'm getting from this JOOVV, which is like, I almost get a high from the JOOVV. Like, it's crazy. Like, it makes me feel amazing, improves my mood. I could talk about my subjective stuff later. But yeah, what's the difference?
Yeah, so we've actually, if you want to go super granular, we've actually got a nice blog post on our site that specifically talks about how a photobiomodulation device does differ from like a near infrared heat lamp. So let's take one, for example, like a Philips infrared heat lamp that you can pick up, pretty much anywhere, Amazon, Home Depot, wherever. When you look at like the wavelengths delivered, they're actually pretty full spectrum. So you get a healthy balance of red and near infrared light, but when you look at the distribution curve of those wavelengths, it's actually very broad. So you get a lot of mid and even a little bit of far infrared wavelengths too. And if you kind of go back, why that's important basically is when you go back to the mechanism of action, it's really important to remember that it's only very specific wavelengths in that optical window, right, at the right dosage, that are needed to activate that enzyme, that cytochrome C oxidase enzyme, to induce normal ATP production. And so if you're not getting the right wavelengths, if it is broader spectrum, that's not necessarily ideal. And I guess to add to that, right? So with an infrared heat lamp, you get a much broader distribution of wavelengths. And so on top of that, the irradiance from one of those heat lamps is actually pretty low. And so at about, they get hot. So if you're using them from at about 12 to 18 inches away, the radiance is, the radiance is only going to be about 10 to 15 milliwatts per square centimeter at that distance. So the JOOVV, on the other hand, by comparison, is you're upwards of 100 milliwatts per square centimeter. And so it's about 10x I say power, it's not really power, but
so
10x
if you were to
the
spend,
irradiance.
right, so the irradiance that you'd get from the JOOVV per, was it square centimeter or meter?
Per square centimeter,
per square centimeter is 10 times as powerful with the JOOVV, meaning that with that small infrared light, you'd have to use it for, if you used 10 minutes on the JOOVV, it would take 100 minutes with that light. And you'd also have to spot treat, like you'd have to have a bunch of them. So you'd be using much more energy, much more power, as opposed to if you're using smaller LEDs, which are, these little LEDs are incredibly powerful. I'll just show the audience again what I've got right here. I set up the JOOVV next to the desk, but these little LEDs are so powerful. I mean, it's almost like you can see how bright it lights my hand up, and you can feel the warmth instantly from these little the near infrared ones. So you've got two frequencies here. Why? What led you to use these two different types of LEDs on the combo unit, and what do they do different from each other?
Yeah. So most of the clinical literature uses wavelengths in that narrow spectrum. Again, I'll mention again that optical window, that therapeutic window between about 600 and 900 nanometers. If you get a little bit more granular, there's actually you can look at there's some graphs on our website that actually showcase the absorption or the activation of cytochrome C oxidase within that narrow window. And so usually what you find is red light in kind of the mid 600 range, from about 630 to about 670 or so nanometers. And then near infrared from about 810 to about 850 typically activates or enhances cytochrome C oxidase the best, right? So it's those two kind of ranges. And the differences between the two, other than with red light, red light's visible. Near infrared light, you can't see it. The core differences in terms of like the from a physiological standpoint is that red light, most of that energy is absorbed in the dermis and epidermis of your skin. So most of the time when you look at clinical literature, a lot of the benefits derived from red light alone are typically superficial. So skin benefits. There's actually some interesting literature that points to like even testosterone production is superficial. But when you look at deeper tissue treatment, trying to enhance muscle recovery, trying to treat joint pain, osteoarthritis, etc., on down the road, usually near infrared light is used because it does penetrate deeper. And so at a high level, red light is typically good for like superficial treatment. Near infrared light is actually a little bit better for deep tissue treatment. And
so the red light's like the low hanging fruit. And what's funny is that's the one that you could see visibly. So when I'm staring into the JOOVV, I guess, on the retina, the studies that were done on the retina, were those in the near infrared or in the red spectrum?
Most of them are in the near infrared spectrum. Most of the studies.
Because it feels the way that I love looking into it, and I couldn't imagine using. And I thought about this very deeply, like when I considered buying what my next JOOVV purchase is going to be, right? So I have the combo unit, and it's the original size, which is in the middle. Yep. As soon as I received it, the first time I used it, I was amazed, and I thought, dang, I wish I bought the max unit. So started saving up, decided, okay, we'll get the max. That'll be another purchase later this year. But now I've been thinking, well, maybe I would want to go with just the near infrared spectrum because it penetrates deeper. But my problem is this: I love how that light looks. Like I love how it feels when it hits my eyes. I love staring into those bright lights, and it does something magical. But it's very interesting. So you're saying the near infrared seems to be beneficial for ocular health. Yeah.
And I would argue probably there's more clinical evidence to showcase the benefits of near infrared light than there is probably red light alone. And just anecdotally to kind of go along with that, one of our a partner that we work with here in the States, she's an Olympic volleyball player, Lauren Fendricks. She actually uses both devices. She has like the big one, the max one, in the combo configuration because she likes this sort of the versatility that you get from using it, both frequencies, red and near infrared light. But she also has a smaller all near infrared panel as well. Like we call it the mini, but it's smaller than the mid-size units, our smallest unit. She uses that for spot treatment. So if she's got like kind of she tweaked her knee in training or something like that, she'll use the near infrared alone just because there is, that those wavelengths will penetrate deeper and they are better for deep tissue treatment. So,
and I've recommended this to several clients who work in offices. So it's like if you work in an office or a cubicle and you're going to try to, good luck turning this thing on in an office and not having everyone think you're an asshole. So
no doubt.
Totally use one of those near infrared devices on your legs. If you've got edema or swelling in the ankles, post-menopause stuff, like a lot of, women would love to use one of these at work. And I think that the just near infrared panel is great for travel too. Like I was thinking like, if you could, I'd have to figure out some electrical stuff in my truck first, but I wanted to get a JOOVV Mini just near infrared for traveling because I could probably put that thing like in the car and run it while we're driving, the spot treat, and everybody can use it in the car while we're on road trips. Has anyone done that?
I don't know if anyone's actually put it in their car. That's a really good idea. We know a lot of people that are kind of stacking, light therapy with other things. A lot of times it's like, I'm at a little standing desk here, a little standing desk converter. It'd be like having that little near infrared panel on my standing desk. So while I'm working for, 30 minutes, an hour, longer in certain, segments, like I get some benefit there. So, but the whole vehicle thing, dude, that's a pretty good idea.
You want to take it a step further? How about this? Let's go super nerdy. All right. So you do your upholstery, you reupholster your car, you get some sort of a, penetrative layer that will set it back in like an inch or so. And you do all your upholstery in your, like on your back with near infrared light so that you could be red light therapying your back while you're driving. Of course, you'd have to maybe take your shirt off. So you maybe be driving shirtless or whatever. But I think that would be so cool to have, furniture and like modular devices and, people's homes wired up with this stuff.
I mean, joking aside though, like if you're spending, like if you're like a road warrior, like a traveling sales guy or something, like in the car, dude, that's actually a really good idea, or something along those lines. Because if you're spending
drivers, truck drivers. Yeah. I mean, if you got a seat that you could, if you could make one of these things or just a pad that would go over it, that would. I mean, because they're sitting in that truck for 12 hours a day sometimes. Yeah. And I think that could be amazing. And those are the people who probably need it the most. Or what about airline pilots, stuff like that?
Yeah, no doubt. The
oxidative stress of flying. Yeah. Right? I mean, the possibilities are just limitless with this stuff because these LEDs, they don't take that much power. And
they last forever, So,
so let's talk about that. What is the longevity on like a JOOVV unit? It's like you buy something like this. The one that I got was the JOOVV original. It's less than $1,000, right? Or it's like around $1,000.
Yep, it's $995. Yep,
$995. So, and to me, it's worth every freaking penny. So this $995 for this unit. How long would one expect this thing to work for with these LEDs?
So the LEDs are rated for 50,000 hours. That doesn't mean that they're gonna shut off in 50,000 hours. But 50,000 hours. I mean, if you're even using it for an hour a day, I think that equates to like close to 150 years. My math is right, something like that. So, I mean, it's a super long time. You may live to 150 if you're in Ecuador, and following the.
I doubt it. But I don't know, man. You ever see someone walking around at 100? They're usually ready to go.
Yeah, no kidding. They're ready to take.
They're talking about, man, this kind of sucks. My grandma made it to 90, and she was always telling me, it's just like, I don't know about this anymore.
No, I'm kind of ready for the dirt nap. But yeah, no. I mean, it's they're rated to last forever. 50,000 hours is the longest longest time. So it's highly unlikely that you'd ever have to replace the LEDs for that, for your particular unit. We also offer a 2-year warranty as well. So, if there's any issues at all within those first 2 years, everything's covered, no questions asked. So yeah, I mean, that's I would argue that's a pretty aggressive, warranty. But we feel pretty confident that our units are built like tanks. So, they'll last the entire time. But
and that's what I like about the JOOVV is it's not. So I've seen, I've got a couple other devices, and I'm not gonna talk about which ones I'm talking about because they're nice and the people that make them are great, but they're just not the same quality as the JOOVV. This thing is metal. I mean, this thing is solid. I have drop tested it on accident, and it survived. And it's the thing is pretty. It seems pretty flawless as far as design goes. I mean, it stays relatively cool, and so it definitely seems like a very solid thing. It's not just a few LEDs in a plastic container.
Yeah, and that's we actually, on that note, we do include cooling fans in our devices too. Primarily, our devices don't get. I mean, the wavelengths we're using don't necessarily get hot, but if you do want to use it for a prolonged period of time, and you're generating the type of power we are. You do need cooling fans. I mean, I'm gonna call it a safety precaution. It's just kind of like a best practice, when you're generating this type of power in a device. And so that's one of the things that we include as well. And so, so the device will never really overheat or never really get too hot, even if you run it for prolonged periods of time.
There's some questions here about do you guys do international shipping?
We do. We ship worldwide. There's a few countries that have pretty stringent customs limitations, but we do ship worldwide, almost to every country.
And I actually shipped mine from. I went with a freight forwarder because it's really hard to get stuff through customs here. But I sent mine from Florida all the way to Ecuador, and it came here no problem. It was incredibly mishandled during transit, and the box was shredded up, but this thing survived it. They are tough units, and so somebody was asking. Says, what if it breaks in shipping process? to Canada. You guys ship to Canada, right?
We do. No, that's absolutely, we cover that. You know, that happened. I mean, as you can imagine, I mean, shipping devices that weigh this much, I mean, it's definitely something that we've tried to optimize for. We're getting into
the packaging is great. Like you guys, it was so well packed that it didn't seem like it was an issue.
Yeah, I mean, we're using industrial grade, you know, foam that surrounds the devices. The box thickness is like super thick, but it's all things that we've had to tweak over time. Just because when you start to ship these at scale, you run into issues like they weren't handled the best by the FedEx guy or the UPS guy. But yeah, I mean, if something's damaged in shipping, we absolutely cover that. No
right. You guys do the 2-year warranty too, and that warranty, or don't you do a 30-day guarantee as well? As like if you don't even like it, that you can return it after 30 days?
Yes, it's actually 60 days. So within the first 60 days, if you don't like it, whether you're not getting the benefits that you thought you were after, or you just didn't have time to use it, whatever the reason, yeah, within the first 60 days, return it full. You know, we'll give you a full refund.
And I'll give you the address to send your unit to if you don't like it. It's my freight forwarder in Florida. I can't imagine. Awesome. I mean, has anybody sent it back because they didn't like it? Like, I can't imagine.
It's really. I mean, there are some for sure, but it's really small. We actually were a little bit nervous when we launched with that policy, 60-day a 60-day kind of no hassle trial period. We were a little bit nervous, but it's so rare that people
so
you know. Yeah, I mean,
I would imagine with some of the smaller devices that could be an issue, because with these smaller devices, like you said, you got to use it for such a long period of time. Whereas with the JOOVV, 10 minutes, you can be done. So when we get into the treatment time thing, some people have asked, can you do the JOOVV for too long? And how long is the treatment time? Stuff like that. So let's get in the nitty gritties on how to use it.
Yeah, and so it's hard to be, you know, terribly prescriptive when it comes to treatment times, just because everyone's kind of after their own benefits, right? So I mean, the stuff that the info I'll provide is really more for proactive health, or kind of more general health. But we, like with our devices, we recommend standing or sitting, depending on which device you have, about 6 inches away or so from the device. And it's not like you have to get out a tape measure, but about 6 inches away.
I usually put my hand out, and it's just like, if like a little bit past my hand. That's a treatment.
That's a good little hack. I've never actually described it that way. I might steal that one from you.
Because my hand's probably like almost 6 inches, so I just like a little past the hand. That's good.
Yep, and that's good. I mean, it's not like you're gonna need to get out like some sort of ruler or anything like that. But about 6 inches away for about 8 to 10 minutes per treatment area. And so where the 8 to 10 minutes comes from is that's really we're backpedaling from what an ideal dosage would be for most people, right? So if an ideal dosage is in the neighborhood of anywhere from 40 to 60 joules of energy, at that distance, you're getting about 6 to 7 joules of energy per minute, right? With the device that you have, the combo device. And so if you're using it for 10 minutes, that's going to equate to about 60 to 70 joules. If you use it a little bit less, that's going to equate to more like 40 to 50. So kind of in that ballpark. So that's where those guidelines come from. So about 6 inches away for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now, having said that, if you're like, well, hey, my desk is actually more like 18 inches away. So where this thing, I've got it on my standing desk, and I want to use it while I'm working. Well, the dosage is the joules of energy is like distance from the device does function into the joules delivered to your body. So if I'm a little bit further away, yes, I'm getting less energy, but with the power that our devices generate, you're still getting a significant dose. So if you were, instead of 6 inches away, if you were more like 2 feet away, so 24 inches away, you'd probably, it's not totally corollary, but you'd probably have to use it for about 3 to 4 times as long to get the same dose of energy.
Would that near infrared still penetrate 5 centimeters deep through all tissues at that distance?
It does. It's just less energy per minute.
That's amazing. Because you don't feel it as like, the closer you get to it, and right now I'm about a foot away from it. I just turned it on and I feel it instantly. And I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. It's kind of a funny little setup. I've got my legs, I'm standing on this little balance thing, and I'm just doing the side of my leg, rolled up my shorts a little bit, and I'm just, getting the side of my leg while I'm working here. Yep. And I'm about a foot away. So 30 minutes of that would probably be about a treatment, right?
Yeah. Yep. And that's a good way to think about it. I know, like, we were joking around about Ben Greenfield earlier, but he uses it while he works. He's got
on his balls.
Yeah, as well.
I use it on my balls too.
Drops his drawers and goes to town. But yeah, you can definitely use it in that fashion. And then I guess the next question would be, well, if I'm using it for an hour, like, is that too long? And so there is something called a biphasic dose response, which basically means you almost reach a certain point where your cells cannot metabolize the dose of energy. To get to that,
what happens when you get to that point?
You basically, you reach a law of diminishing returns, where basically you're not getting a whole lot of benefit past a certain point.
But would it be damaging?
No, it's not going to be damaging.
Because I've fallen asleep in front of it, woke up, felt amazing. Like that,
Yeah.
It relaxes me, and I like to use it.
No, I'm the same way. Like my wife's the same way. Like she'll like routinely kind of like, we use it a lot to illuminate our bedroom at night, instead of turning on artificial light.
Great to read.
Oh yeah, and that's when I do most of my. I was joking around with Rob Wolf the other day, and we were having the same conversation because he mentioned that it relaxes his kids like really well, and I was like,
dude, my 1.5-year-old baby will turn it on and lay under it.
Yeah,
like all by himself. He'll come out here, he'll flick it on, lay under it whenever if his sister's upset or something and he doesn't want it, he'll just come out there and he'll treat himself with it. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, and dogs the same way. I like our dog.
Oh man, I've got an anecdote of it. I have a dog. He's gone right now. I would love to share this anecdote with you.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can get into some more nerdy anecdotes too. But so I've got a dog, 10 years old. He's a 90-pound dog. And big dogs don't tend to last too long. He's 10 years old. He made it this far. He was diagnosed with cancerous tumor about 5 years ago. He had a tumor. He got it removed from his butt. They told us, yes, it was cancerous. We can start radiating him now. Bring him in. We'll give him chemo and radiation. And we just said, screw you. Our dog's going to be fine. Like we just kept feeding him a good diet and decided his quality of life is more important than this. We figured he'd live longer and have a better quality of life without the cancer treatment. So this is 5 years ago. He's been fine since then. But a few months ago, something happened. His immune system took a major hit and he started getting tumors in his mouth. Just his mouth, like these little cauliflower looking growths. It was disgusting. He started smelling. He lost almost all. He was 90 pounds before we castrated him. I'm really sad about castrating him. Poor guy. Because we had 2 female dogs at the time and it was like it seemed like a better option. So we castrated our poor boy. We cut his balls off and he lost a little bit of weight. So he was 90 pounds at his biggest, but he must have weighed like 60 pounds a few months ago. And his mouth was full of tumors. He smelled terrible and he kept on wandering off. We thought he was going to die. Like he would wander off and he wouldn't come back for hours. And we reconciled. We said our goodbyes. We dug a grave for Duke and the grave was ready. We got the JOOVV and we started laying him in front of it. And after the first day, he woke up the next day, had much more energy and he ate and he drank water. Then we put him in front of it every day for at least 30 minutes and he would like it. He would really enjoy it. He'd lay in front of it. And I don't know if this was a viral thing or what, or if it was just a passing thing, or if he ate some poison or something. I don't know what happened, but all those tumors are now gone from his mouth. They shrunk. Most of them are gone. There's a few little skin tag looking things left, but he had them in the back of his throat, all on his tongue, and they were just growing every single day, and they were really hard, and they felt like they were like made of collagen or something. And sorry for the gross details, guys, but our dog is now fine. He's showing no signs of, lack of life. He begs for food all day and barks and wants to kill everything that walks by our house. And that's, I don't know what it was, but the red light therapy seemed to turn him around almost instantly.
Wow, dude, that's an incredible story.
I'm not saying that it was just the red light therapy. Like we gave him some other herbs and stuff too, and gave him a lot of love. And, maybe those tears rejuvenated his will to live. But man, it was just incredible. Like how much he changed from just about a week of red light therapy treatment. And now he's fine.
How is he like, you said he's about 60 or 70 pounds. So like a decent sized dog, right?
He's like 75, 80 pounds now. He's a pit bull. People would call him a pit bull, but a real pit bull is never over like 60 pounds, right? Like a real pit bull is very small and more, he's got, like they bred these pit bulls to be bigger and more muscular, and it's like a Staffordshire Terrier is what I would call him. He's a Staffy. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Kind of full body treatment, so to speak, almost right
he could get his whole body on this JOOVV original. It was his entire frame.
Because the interesting thing about that is there's actually a lot of evidence that suggests these wavelengths of light actually help enhance your immune system by helping it transition from an M1 phenotype to an M2 phenotype. And I guess what that means at a high level is that your immune system becomes more phagocytic. So you basically can digest the cells that you don't want to, like, so a cancer cell gone bad, right? Your immune system is actually fighting that and digesting, metabolizing those cells to a greater degree. And that's actually what's one of the most exciting things about full body applications, because you're literally irradiating your body systemically with really beneficial wavelengths of light. And so the byproduct of that, it could be really, really interesting, especially for, like, I'm not sure if Duke had cancer or whatnot, but especially with
he was
ophthalmology.
diagnosed in Ecuador with a medical, I don't know, like it's the veterinarian said, we sent it to the clinic and they said it's cancer. Who knows if it's I don't know if it's real.
Yeah, right.
I assumed, I was like, screw it, I don't believe it. But hey, it came back. He had tumors in his mouth. Now the tumors are gone. Whether those were just viral, infectious, who knows? But whatever it was, that red light therapy turned his immune system around and allowed him to get through it. And now his mouth is clear and he's able to eat and drink.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It was a trip, man. It was. We still got the hole dug. We still got his grave over there. We don't know what to do with it.
I was just gonna say, like, did you fill it up, or like what?
No, I don't know what to do with it. Just waiting there. Maybe in like 5 more years, when he decides to finally go, we'll
save it for another day. That's awesome.
If we ever get an intruder in the night, we'll bury them out there.
That's if someone comes and tries to steal the JOOVV, he's going.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody watching this tries to come steal my JOOVV, you got a hole dug for you, motherfucker. So somebody asked, is there any condition that would like contraindicate the use of red light therapy? So like, are there certain people, asks Sarah, or illnesses that would make you want to avoid it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It comes up quite a bit. I would say by and large, there really is no true contraindications. But I will throw out a couple caveats. So one caveat would be pregnancy. So if someone's pregnant, is it safe for them to use, these wavelengths of light? There's no clinical literature to support that, just because it would be so impossible to actually enroll patients in a study like that. Hey, we want to study your baby and your fetus inside of you and whether this device can help. Most mothers are going to be like, hell no. So it would be impossible to probably conduct a study like that. But anecdotally, a guy like Dr. Hamlin, he fundamentally believes it would be incredibly impactful to use, not only for mom, but also for the baby fetus. A lot of that because just of the overabundance of stem cells. And there's so much really cool evidence that suggests photobiomodulation enhances the benefits of stem cells. And so his theory is like, you'd actually probably see even bigger benefits, during pregnancy than you would otherwise with these.
Oh man, if Jessica was pregnant, I'd have her under that all the time.
Yeah.
Like we put our baby under it. Our 5-year-old loves to use it. Yeah, man.
So that's one caveat. I mean, there's a few other caveats. Some people, like in rare situations, do experience melanocyte. Like it does sometimes stimulate melanocytes, or so you'll maybe see some pigmentation in your skin. I would say that's extremely rare.
What do you mean by pigmentation? Like people get more like tan?
Not necessarily tan. It's just like freckles, for example. I'm full on,
I'm naturally flirty. I got freckles all over. Come on, man.
So some people,
that's normal.
Yeah, I would think it's normal, not a big deal for like dudes, but like,
well, maybe if you're red hair and you grew up and maybe kids used to pick on me for having freckles when I was a kid, so maybe I'd be a little sensitive to some more freckles.
There you go. Yeah. But that's I wouldn't say. I mean, you could say that's maybe some of that's due to the melanocyte stimulation by near infrared light. There's also evidence that suggests near infrared light.
Wouldn't that be a good thing because you're storing more melanin?
Yeah, I mean, in some respects it would be. If you see it evidenced, with more pigmentation in your skin, maybe, but it's really rare. My sister, for example, she's an esthetician, runs her own spa. She has fair skin like myself. She's noticed nothing along those lines. You know what I mean? And she deals with a lot of clients, her customers, her clients, that have some sort of skin issue. And almost every single one of them is using a JOOVV, and she hasn't seen any evidence of that. So I mean, it's extremely rare, but it's like one of those caveats that there may be some evidence of that, but it's extremely rare. So it's kind of a it's something to mention anyway, or call out.
Yeah. So what I've noticed? I'll turn it off. People always complain because I do live hangouts and I'm always using the JOOVV in the live hangouts because I do it at night. They're like, I don't like your red light. I'm like, I
It's too
don't
bright.
care.
Too
I
bright.
think it looks awesome. I love the aesthetic of it. Like,
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that? Just a funny little story is Wes, who you have a lot of correspondence with Wes and our team. His new place here in Southern California, they have a couple Max devices in their place, and they'll use it at night, just like we do. And they had a neighbor complain about, like, it was the from the outside, it's too bright, in your room, and we were like, what? How can you complain about that? Like,
would you like walking in front of my house and staring at it and just
exactly
have a reason to like hate something? Like, that's so weird.
It reminded me of that though.
Yeah, no, the Southern California suburbs, there's a lot of funny, like the homeowners associations could be hilarious.
Yeah. Man. No bright red lights in the room. No, at night.
Yeah, no red light. You have to black out. Then if you put up like blackout curtains, then they'll think you got like a meth lab in there or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Like, what's happening there? You say it's
right. Then
they'll
call the cops on you because they think you're doing some illegal stuff because you got everything blacked out.
Exactly.
So you know what I've noticed, and I have no idea if this is just coincidence, but okay. So I'm a pale white boy at heart, and I live in Ecuador, and I love being in the sun, and I've gradually increased my ability to be long in the sun. Like, I never had a suntan growing up. I was like, always had allergies, asthma, autoimmune conditions, and I think I was very vitamin D depleted growing up. And part of my healing process was figuring out full spectrum sunlight. Like, I got addicted to full spectrum sunlight when I was 18. I stopped being afraid of, people gonna think about me if I take my shirt off and stuff like that. It's just like, I started enjoying being out in the sun. And what I've noticed over the last like 6 months of using the JOOVV, or however long it is, 4 months, I don't know. I've noticed that my skin holds a tan suddenly. Whereas like before, it used to be I could get a little bit of a tan, and then the sun goes away for 3 days and I'm beat white again. What I've noticed is like my skin I get color. Like, I hold on to a tan now. Does that have, you ever heard of that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I haven't like, I don't know of a lot of evidence that like suggests a strong
total bro science.
Yeah, bro science. That's a good way to describe it. But it kind of does make sense, because like one question that we get a lot is like, is there an optimal times of day to use light therapy, right? These wavelengths of light. And ideally, it's morning and evening, just because that mimics the natural sunrise and sunset. And when you look at the full spectrum of natural sunlight, most of the red and near infrared light is delivered in in the morning sunrise or the evening sunset. And so when you kind of like, if you're into kind of like paleo or ancestral type of like methodology, that does make sense. So like our ancestors, grew up in a world where they were getting more natural sunlight, most of it in most of these specific wavelengths in the morning in the sun. And from a mechanism of action standpoint or perspective, you are, by basically enhancing normal energy or normal ATP production, with these wavelengths of light, you're almost prepping your cells or charging your cells to better handle, UV light during the midday.
That's
the
what
midday
I was
hours, for
thinking.
example.
It almost feels like getting in front of the JOOVV makes my skin more resilient, and you get improved collagen synthesis. And that's kind of what's funny is collagen. That's like the low hanging fruit too. Like, improved skin health. Oh, I got a question. How come I still have a pimple if I use it? Why did I get a pimple? It obviously didn't work. I got a pimple. No, I'm just kidding. That's the vegans will comment with that. You got a pimple. Your diet's toxic. So yeah, you're still human. It doesn't make you never get pimples again, guys. But that would totally make sense, that because when you're getting full spectrum sunlight, it's UV coupled with this red light.
Yeah.
Here, let's take this a little bit deeper. So do you know, so these specific frequencies that we're getting from the JOOVV, your infrared and red, how long would we need to be in the full spectrum sunlight, assuming like maybe near the equator, where it's super powerful? How long would we need to be out in the sun to get that same treatment with natural sunlight?
Yeah, no, I mean, it largely depends on where you live, right? If you're closer to the equator, like in Ecuador, versus if you're in the northern hemisphere, like way up north, Alaska, Canada, that type of geography. So it's going to depend on how close you are to the sun. But yeah, you're definitely getting a nice dosage of red and near infrared light if you're spending a lot of time in the sun. But we're talking like hours. You're probably in the neighborhood of, you'd probably need a solid 4, 5, 6 hours of natural sunlight during the day. I mean,
that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
Because only about 30, roughly 30% of the wavelengths from the sunlight during the day are red and near infrared light. And so again, it kind of depends on how far away you are from the sun. Mm-hmm. But it's not like, hey, if I go if I'm going to go out in the sun for 10 minutes, do I get the same dosage of these wavelengths as, using a light, a high powered light therapy device?
Yeah,
No,
that
it's
would
not.
be the question. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why not? If I can get 10 minutes of sunshine, say you're in Canada, right? Like, there's going to be a totally different spectrum of light that you're getting
Yeah.
from that sun during this time of year than if you're in the equator or beautiful sunny Southern California.
Yeah.
So, it seems like what we're doing here is getting super physiological doses. Has there been any? We talked about possible side effects of doing it for too long, and there's a diminishing return where you don't get any benefits. But has there ever been like anything showing that there's like negatives to red light therapy if you get like too intense or something like that?
Yeah, and I guess just to go real quick to go back to like natural sunlight, the one thing I would want to add to that is like if you don't want to invest in a light therapy device, like I'm sure you'd agree with this, Tristan. Like my first recommendation would be try to get more natural sunlight. It's like it's healthy for all of us. We all need to get more of it, myself included. To be more sort of like cognizant of getting more natural sunlight during the day. So I mean that's a good first step. Just get more good light, during the day. I think that's a healthy recommendation for anyone. But to kind of go back to your question about is there too much, can you get too much of these wavelengths of light? There is definitely. I mean, if you dig into the clinical literature, there is that topic that I mentioned earlier called it's often referred to as a biphasic dose response. And so it's not going to cause damage, but you do reach a law of diminishing returns where you could argue once you're past a certain point, your body just simply can't metabolize that much energy at any given time. And so with a device like ours, like that's pretty high powered, I would say if you're using it at anything past probably 20 minutes, you're probably not getting a lot of added benefit there. But if you're using it, it changes the game if it's sitting across the other side of the room, and you're 10, 15 feet away from it, where the energy dose is so much lower. It's pretty, it's relatively, negligible at that point, and you're using it just sort of as a mood enhancer to, if you don't want to expose yourself to too much blue light or artificial light in the evenings. That's a little bit of a different story. So I guess when you're talking about therapeutic dosages, that biphasic dose response is a little bit more applicable. But if you're using it to illuminate your room at night to enhance your sleep better, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm. Right on. So somebody said, is there anything you shouldn't do with a JOOVV? Like drinking booze in front of it. Somebody must like their JOOVV so. Sarah, you like your JOOVV so much you want to have drinks with it?
That's right. That would be a bro study. Is that could you drink more beers with the JOOVV and not get if you can I drink 12 beers.
If you're a celiac, like you've got celiacs, like you eat your wheat in front of the JOOVV and you see if you don't get like a gnarly response. Right. I don't know if that's advisable. Yeah,
well, wouldn't be something we'd probably recommend, but if you're into some bro studies, that'd be pretty fun to do.
Right on. All right, man. So with the JOOVV, let's see. You got any more? All right. So there's a few different words that people throw out, right? So there's like you've got red light therapy. That's one of the key words that, it's easy for people to understand. I like to use that word a lot. Also, photobiomodulation makes you sound really smart when you say it. It's a cool word, right? Photobiomodulation. You want to get the biohacking crowd. You get the photobiomodulation word. But then there's some other words like phototherapy and chromotherapy. Have you looked into some of these terms? These are kind of things that I've recently come upon. I don't know what they're referring to, really. You got any?
Yeah, phototherapy or photomedicine is probably a little bit more applicable, to photobiomodulation. In essence, you're looking at how photons of light impact our bodies, right? That's the end goal. Chromotherapy is a little bit different, and that word comes from therapeutic doses of light that affect our chromospheres. So we have chromospheres that we're enacting or inducing like some sort of effect on in our bodies. That's where the word chromotherapy comes from. And on that note, that's maybe a separate conversation. But a lot of saunas now actually are starting to incorporate chromotherapy or red light therapy into a sauna. And so that's another really interesting topic altogether. Is it beneficial to get light therapy or photobiomodulation at the same time as a sauna? Or is there synergistic benefits? Are there no benefits at all? That really hasn't been studied. The only thing I'd say is that those are two distinctly different mechanisms of action at a cellular level. Sauna, you're inducing heat stress by intention on your body, right? And trying to induce heat shock proteins. Light therapy or chromotherapy, different mechanism of action, which we kind of discussed before. So they are it's distinct. It's like the equivalent. Try to compare like cardiovascular, long distance cardiovascular training versus, weight training. It's just, they're different. Like they're different altogether. You know what I mean? So
my brain lit up when you said JOOVV and the sauna, because that was the next thing. All right. So after thinking, oh man, I wish I had the JOOVV Max the moment I received my JOOVV Original, which the JOOVV Original is plenty, guys. Like I keep talking about how badly I want the JOOVV Max, but you got to understand, like this thing right here is totally enough to treat your entire body within less than an hour of time. Like you can get both sides, you can rotisserie yourself in less than an hour. 20 minutes, you can do back, front, 20 minutes. And then in the evening, you can do your lower body 20 minutes. It's really enough, but I would just love to have just massive, like full power. But what I thought it would be incredible to have this in like a spa, or not a spa, but like a jacuzzi, like a hot tub, where the entire tub is lined with like near infrared and red light. Now we haven't got into this. This is like a whole nother bag of worms, is the effect of like red light on water. And near infrared light on water is something that fascinates me. I've talked about Dr. Gerald Pollack's work, the fourth phase of water, and its connection to generating energy and electrical current in the body, which then ties into like Dr. Robert Becker's work in his book, The Body Electric, with regeneration in animals being linked into a strong electrical current, which is created by an exclusion zone in water, which is created by water being exposed to certain frequencies of light in a hydrophilic substance. All right, so is there any effect? Have you looked much into the effects of like red light on water and what it does to water?
Yeah, there's certainly a strong foundation. You mentioned one of the kind of the leaders in that sort of category, that arena, Dr. Gerald Pollack. He's done some really cool work. But yeah, there's definitely evidence that suggests near infrared light does sort of charge water. In fact, my wife likes to take, here at our house, likes to take a jug of water and then one of our smaller near infrared panels and just, shine it on the light. And you can actually see the water begin to change structure. You'll see bubbles as an example, right? So, when you think of H2O, the molecular structure of the water is beginning to change. Are there benefits to that? Like clinical, physiological benefits when you're consuming charged water? I don't know. There's no really clinical data. I know, like if you mention, if Justin was here, I mentioned him earlier, one of our co-founders, the engineer, he geeks out on this stuff. He has a huge passion for, what this whole space, charged water and easy water. But I'm not aware. I personally am not aware of any what happens when you digest this water. I think that's probably to be determined.
I'm thinking of more of just like the water in our actual bodies.
Right?
The water's in the hydrophilic substance. The water is ubiquitous throughout our entire body. When it's being irradiated in this, it's almost like, this could just be charging up our cells and giving it, mitochondria create the electrical current in our body through the electron chain transport, which then creates a magnetic field, because every current, 90 degrees through the electrical current, there's a magnetic field. So it just seems to me like that could be an area of study if, once it goes more mainstream, like the exclusion zone in water and stuff like that, the improved mitochondrial function and the improved ATP production could very well be due to charge separation in the fluids in our body being more profound from the photobiomodulation. But this is this is just nerdy theoretical mouth that I'm doing.
But you bring up a really good point though. Like I would tend to agree with you in the sense that by having a full body, by experiencing full body irradiation or full body photobiomodulation, you may very well be creating like easy water in that fashion, because we have such a significant amount of water in our bodies that by exposing yourself to full body light therapy or full body PBM, you're getting that effect. That's a nice byproduct. In fact, Dr. Hamlin, I mentioned his name earlier. He actually thinks that's one of like the major benefits that's maybe underappreciated with full body light therapy is actually the systemic circulatory benefits. You're irradiating such a large percentage of your body, and you look at like the microcirculatory system, throughout our skin, where you're getting systemic circulatory benefits from irradiating, the blood across such a broad area of your body.
Absolutely. And this could tie in. So a lot of the low hanging fruit, people with psoriasis, like you mentioned your wife with skin issues, and that's kind of why you got into this. You know, my mom, she's been dealing with some psoriasis, or I don't know if it's psoriasis, but some, you know, some little niggling skin issues. And it seems like it very well could be due to increased circulation and then the water being charged up. And it's just giving you extra energy to move this gunk out of the skin that is having trouble circulating in general. Of course, this is theoretical, but you know, I mean, really, when you look at all science is theoretical. These are all theoretical frameworks that we use to explain the incredible, miraculous, undescribable, beautiful nature of the whatever it is that we live in. So yeah, this has been great. I think we've gone pretty deep into this. One more thing I'd maybe like to talk about. All right, so when I first got the JOOVV, the first thing I did with it is I threw some nails in certain walls. You know, and I've got it hanging up right there and right there on the corner. I've got a chain over there that I can put it over that futon, and I've also got a spot outside that I use it on. What are some other cool things that people have done and cool setups that you've seen? You know, I mean, I've got under my desk as well. Sometimes I'll put it on the floor on its side at my standing desk so I can do my feet. Sometimes I'll put it at the head of the bed and do the top of my head. Different things that I've done with it. What are some crazy and cool and just, you know, maybe simple things that people have done to get JOOVV treatment in creative ways in their homes?
Yeah. As you can imagine, we do have a lot of people that use it in interesting ways. They're like, we find ourselves a lot of times being like, oh, I guess, you know, you see a picture, you're like, I guess you could use it like that. But on that note, you know, full disclaimer, all of our devices out of the box are sort of conveniently designed. They come with a custom door hook, you know, an adjustable jump from a door. The reason for that is, like, again, kind of going back to why the design that we optimized for was like quick, efficient treatments that you know, with a device that you could conveniently store. So if it's hanging from a door, you don't have to like get it out of the closet. It stays out of the way. You could get a quick, you know, 5 to 10 minute treatment and be done. So that's how they're fundamentally designed. But there are, you know, so I'll mention that, you know, full disclaimer, like some of these things that we'll talk about aren't the way, you know, the device is intended to be used. But having said that, let's start with the Max device. Like there's threaded posts on the back of the device. They're there to actually be used with our vertical stands. So we make a mobile stand that comes with our Max device, but you can, you know, hang it horizontally. So we have a lot of people actually that do hang it, you know, horizontally over a massage table, over some type of bed, like you mentioned your futon. So
you're talking about these little things right here are on the Max on both sides.
They're on the back of the device. Yeah. So you can actually hang it horizontally.
But, you know, I mean, this thing, it seems like, and I'm not, if you might void the warranty, but you could definitely modify this really easily with just some stuff from Home Depot to put whatever mount you want on it, right?
Yeah, depending on kind of what your level of kind of DIY or your desire to kind of go you know, be a DIY engineer. But yeah, you could definitely manufacture it. In fact, you know, with that medium-sized devices, there aren't probably as many creative things that you could do in comparison to like our Max device. But we do have people that have like kind of custom engineered their own little support mechanism that kind of holds that original in place horizontally, so they can kind of lay on the carpet underneath it, as an example. You know, one I'm not sure if you've ever seen them, but oftentimes, like at furniture stores, especially those that sell outside furniture, you've seen those chairs that almost have like a canopy. Like there's like this little canopy, like articulating canopy arm, and then you sit kind of in this like this chair that kind of hangs from it. I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about, but that what we've seen some people like basically take the chair off, use the canopy system, and then hang the JOOVV from that little canopy arm kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So that's another kind of interesting way to use. And a lot of people, like with our Max device, it comes with bumpers on the bottom of the device. So a lot of people don't even hang it, period. They just kind of rest it against the wall.
I'll do that too. You know, and even this thing is hard on the bottom, and it probably is not the best idea, but I'll just rest it on the power cable down there sometimes, and I'll wedge it right in between my desk so that it stands up straight.
Yep. So that's another thing is like just simply if you want to lay down in front of it and you don't want to, make some sort of contraption. Another way is just to set it on its side, and you can lay down on your side next to it.
Right.
And
if you look at it, the side is totally flat. So if you got a tile floor,
yep.
That's pretty easy to just lay on its side.
Yep, that's another super easy way. The mini, actually, the smaller one, it has 2 panels instead of the 5 that you've got. That's another great one. Just you set it right on a tabletop, a desktop, something like that. We've got a lot of people that use our devices for hair regrowth. There's a lot of clinical evidence that suggests red light actually does induce hair regrowth, and so they'll actually set it on like a little end table and kind of lay on their bed and just kind of put the top of their head in front of the device, for those reasons. So yeah, a couple interesting different kind of hacks to use with the JOOVV panels.
Nice. Yeah. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Like the craziest setup that anyone's ever done with JOOVVs, like commercial or home? Like what's the gnarliest thing you've ever seen someone do with these things?
Dude, that's a good question.
Like the most over the top, like, wow, that's crazy and maybe ridiculously expensive thing that someone's done with it.
Well, I don't know if it'd be over the, I don't know if it'd be like,
nothing's over the top. I want to
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Actually, one of the reasons we started developing that mobile stand for the Macs actually was one of our one of our early adopters. His name is Dr. John Toma. He's a practicing chiropractor in Scottsdale, and he actually originally bought 4 of our Macs devices and mounted them to articulate, like arms that you'd hang like a big screen TV from the wall. He did something similar. He had custom brackets made for these mounts, and he mounted them to the wall in his practice. So he had 4 of them. So he had one kind of stationary, and then three of them in this corner in his practice, and he kind of move them all around because there's like these articulating kind of mounts. And so like he did that by himself without any sort of like instruction from us. He's kind of one of those guys, that likes to experiment. And so we saw that and we're like, that's really interesting. I wonder if like there'd be a demand for that. So that's actually what set us down our path to actually start developing these vertical stands. And so even if you go to our website, kind of under the professional section, you can see actually what that would look like. 4 Max devices, almost like a walk-in tanning bed, but it's a walk-in like JOOVV room, so to speak. You can see what that looks like. So that
like the first thing I thought of when I got it was like, I need a room of these. Like I want a bathtub, a room, and a sauna that's just like surrounded with these.
Oh yeah.
Man.
It's funny that you say that. We were at the Bulletproof conference last fall, and we met a guy that's and I didn't even know this was a thing, but like they make across the they're kind of known for making biohacked homes. So like extremely low EMFs, et cetera. I don't even know exactly what that entails to manufacture a biohacked home. But he was like, I want to actually start, allocating like a JOOVV room in all of these, these homes where it's like they customize like the wall actually, so it would have a recessed, light therapy panel in the wall. And I was like, that's a pretty sweet idea. You know what I mean? Seems a little bit over the top, but that's an interesting idea nonetheless.
Nice, man. So it just one more question about the use. Like what about in your home? You got a couple units around. How do you use it?
What were you gonna say? It seemed like the what?
Well, it seems like you probably don't go too crazy, but you probably got a cool setup over there. What do you got going on with the JOOVVs at the house?
I would say our house in Minneapolis. Actually, we just moved to Southern California at the beginning of this year. So our house in Minneapolis had arguably a better setup. So we had actually the Max device. I mentioned it comes with those threaded posts on the back. We had it actually in we had a portion of our basement that was unfinished, and so we had it actually on this mounting system from the joist in the basement on a little pulley system, so you can raise and lower it above a massage table. So that was actually pretty sweet. So you can sit there and rest and relax on a massage table underneath the JOOVV. So that was our setup at home. Now since we just moved, I mentioned laying it on its side. That's the way we're kind of using it, for the most part now. Is actually we just lay in front of it, on its side. Right now, but my wife tends to be a little bit more of an experimenter when it comes to this stuff. I mentioned she's got her near infrared panel in front of like this jug of water, charging it to create easy water, in front of it. So she's a little bit more of an experimenter than I am, kind of like a pretty boring, in terms of the usage,
Yeah.
So.
Well, so I've got a chain hanging up there, and something I like to, it'll hang from there, and it'll be horizontal, so I'll be laying under it. For those of you who are listening, it's just a chain connected to a wooden crossbeam in the house we live in. And what I found that's really cool is because I've got, I put a little mount. I just used some wire and made a little loop at the very bottom of it. Like I didn't have to buy anything. I just got some wire from my garden that I use for fencing and stuff, and looped it around on the bottom there. And I'll kind of show you what I've got. So it's hanging from this string. For those of you who are watching, the string is connected to both sides of the JOOVV, but I'll hang it from the thing over the futon over there, and you can actually tilt it all the way up or down so that you can sit in front of it and have it vertical on your back. And that's just, there's no extra mounts. It's a chain and a string, and you can angle it however you want. You can angle it so where like you can do massage in front of it, or it's got a little pulley on it that comes with the unit that you can raise it up and down really easily. Although I broke my plastic pulley, I abused it. It takes a lot of strength for me to pull it now, but there's such a versatility to the unit. And I want to say thank you for coming on and for sharing your knowledge, and for making this light that everyone in my family fights over all the time, because we love it so much. So you guys can find more about red light therapy and about the JOOVV if you check out the link in the description here on YouTube, or if you check out the notes on the podcast page if you're listening to it in podcast form. And we've got a special discount code for our audience here, and that is Primal Edge Health. All one word is the discount code. You'll get $25 off the JOOVV. And again, the one that I've got is the combo unit. I usually recommend the combo unit for most people because I love the way that the red light looks. But like we were saying earlier, there are benefits to the near infrared unit that, if you're using it in a place where you can't be super visible, or if you're in an office, if you want to use it in your car, like I might do someday, then you might want to look into the just near infrared unit as well. But they got 3 different sizes. They've got a smaller one, a medium sized one, which is the original that I've got, and the JOOVV Max, which is calling to me in the near future. So, you guys can check out more through the link below and use the coupon code Primal Edge Health. Scott, got anything else to add, my friend?
No, man. I totally appreciate the opportunity. It's been fun to chat, to finally chat. I guess live here. So totally appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys and what you do. And again, we don't just affiliate with any old company. We don't do Amazon affiliate links. We affiliate with small companies, family companies, people with similar visions and with integrity. And I cannot praise this company highly enough for the work that they've done in making red light therapy devices that are durable, powerful, and can be used at home on your own time in whatever room and whatever setting you choose. So you guys got to check out red light therapy. The most amazing full spectrum sunlight device is free. I just gave it away. That's the sun, but you want to take it to the next level. Look more into photobiomodulation. This is something that we've heavily integrated in our life. And I don't have the email pulled up anymore, but I was gonna pull. I had an email from a client who just told me that it changed his life. Every single client that I've turned on to it have told me that it's just given them such incredible benefits. And I'm in a field where we help people overhaul their diet and their lifestyle. And, we see a lot of amazing things and amazing transformations. But since we've started recommending red light therapy, I can't tell you the amazing, I just can't describe some of these incredible emails we've gotten from clients and from people who have thanked me for introducing them to red light therapy, and particularly the JOOVV. It's been incredibly beneficial to me and to many people I know. And I know my mom's going to be getting one soon. I'm not sure if she's ordered it yet, but Mom, you got to get that JOOVV. And so you guys can find more through the link in the here in the description, and you can find more at primaledgehealth.com. Thanks for joining, and Scott, thanks a lot for coming on.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks for the
all right.
Lost my headset.
Right on, man. Later, Scott, and I'll see the audience next time. You can find more at primaledgehealth.com.